Well, good evening and welcome to night 4 of our 6:30 Election Central special. I am Rolly Hoyt. We've spent the last few nights looking at what is on your ballots here in Arkansas. Tonight we want to talk about what we are watching in all of those major races and how it could all shake out. To do that, we are joined by political strategist and former comms director for Governor Asa Hutchinson, J.R. Davis. Glad to have you here. And Charles King, who recently named executive director for college advancement and development at Southeast Arkansas College. Congratulations on the new job, Mr. King.
Thank you.
We want to thank you both for being here. Let's briefly talk about the contest that's, of course, the top of everybody's ballot. Former President Donald Trump, Vice President Kamala Harris in their heated race for the White House. We're going to dive even more into this a little bit, but Charles, in this very red state that we live in, what effect do you see right now for the prospects of the nation's first female black president and what it might tell us for the race overall?
Well, I think, first of all, the prospect is very, very high that we could make history with the first woman of color. Unfortunately, Arkansas won't have very much to do with that because they're focusing so much on the key states, the swing states. But I do believe it's very, very important that every voter in Arkansas makes his or her vote known, that they actually go out and vote.
Do you have a sense of whether there's an excitement in the black community or in different communities for her candidacy?
Oh yeah, I think that there's excitement not just for her candidacy as a black woman, but as a candidate for change. So you got both of those that are playing in there, especially among young people, because young people, you know, they had this age thing early on, and she was the answer to that.
Now, JR, you worked for a man who ran against President Trump earlier this year. What's the temperature like for Republicans as the former president has reestablished himself throughout this campaign?
Well, one, I would say this is probably the most up and down, 3 or 4 months from everything that's happened as far as any sort of momentum goes. But I think that there's a lot of excitement on the Republican side. I've talked to a lot of folks that haven't voted for Trump in the past on the Republican ticket or on the Republican side that absolutely plan to this time. I think there's a stark contrast between candidates. I think the economy continues to be a really, really big issue. And I think it really comes down to sort of outrage versus activation, right? And so who's going out to vote for their candidate versus who's going out to vote against the other candidate, right? And so I do think there's going to be a little bit more of that on the Trump side than there was in 20, so to speak. More so, just you had a lot more outrage on the Democrat side to go out there and vote against him. I think you're going to see that even out a little bit. So I think there's still a lot of excitement on the Trump side of things, and really probably a lot of outrage on the Kamala side of things. So
it's like a reverse incumbency.
Exactly.
It seems like.
Yeah, no, exactly right.
Speaking of incumbents, we are a state that has completely Republican congressional representation. All 4 seats in the House of Representatives are up, including the one here in Central Arkansas District 2. It is a battle between French Hill and Marcus Jones, a retired Army colonel. They are squaring off, and Charles, a very interesting choice of getting Marcus Jones into this race. Give us an idea of what Democrats were looking for, knowing they had an uphill fight in so many of these races around
Well,
the
let me
state.
just say this. Marcus Jones is an excellent candidate, prior military, so he has all of the moral turpitude that's needed to serve in Congress. He stood up for this nation as a soldier, and I think that still means a lot to a lot of people, especially your middle-aged and older people. His policies are very much in line with what Kamala Harris is talking about, so I think that would be a great partnership. But I have to be a realist. I think it's an uphill climb.
There's a fine line between, especially in a state like this, where you want to find a moderate Democrat.
Yes.
I imagine you do, but then the National Party has gone so progressive in a lot of cases. So we know it's going to be an uphill battle. Does French Hill have to do much more beyond just not be progressive? Or?
Well, I think that's a big part of Kamala Harris's piece. She is more moderate than what people may be traditionally thinking of Democrats. So when she gets that boost, he gets that boost as well.
Well, I hate to disagree with you. I don't think she's necessarily moderate in a lot of people's eyes. And I think, look, she hasn't been in the race very long, right? This has been basically a 90-day campaign. So there's a lot of Americans that still don't know who Vice President Harris is, right? She's been in the background. I think her position she's taken prior to the 2020 campaign have been quite liberal and progressive, I think, on whether it's universal health care, et cetera, right? The border.
Well, politicians change their positions all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I think that as her 3.5 years as serving as an excellent vice president, she's able to make her decisions based on her recent experience. And I think that recent experience is what America is listening for. They're tired of people who want to be dictators. They're tired of people who want to tell you one thing and do another. But Kamala, in the 3 months, has done a little different.
I know we're going to probably get to this a little bit more, but go ahead.
But I would say that some of that pugnaciousness has shown up in the District 1 race, where you've got Rick Crawford taking on Rodney Governors, who seem to want to go after the incumbent Republican. There's also a Libertarian in the race, Stephen Parsons. As you go over eastern Arkansas, again, Crawford would appear to be safe, but in Governors, you've got a case of a more progressive approach and willing to get in there and fight. You're also seeing a little bit of that down in District 4, where Bruce Westerman is facing Reezy Howard, who is a Pine Bluff lawyer. That's one of the things about District 4 that always I think surprises people. It goes from Pine Bluff up to the Ozarks.
It's literally turning into our third Senate seat, I think. Yeah, it's getting bigger and bigger every cycle.
The whole redistricting screwed up the 4 districts. You've got 3 people representing Pulaski County alone, 3 out of 4.
Well,
and then up in Northwest Arkansas, where you're from originally, the population trends over the last few years have some Democrats looking at this as a place that could become more purple, shall we say, having Fayetteville there, having this one place where it's getting a lot of in-migration. But on the other hand, Steve Womack has been a very powerful and one of the most senior members of Congress that we've got in the state right now.
Yeah, I'll pull back a little bit on the 30,000 foot. When you look at all 4 of our members of Congress, I think that they are they have a record, right, and they've been pretty stable, right, pretty steady. I mean, members know what to expect from each one of these members, and specifically, for Congressman Hill, he's been here, he's a known commodity, people know him, he's worked hard. I think he's done a really, really good job, whether it's for our veterans or our HBCUs. I know he's been a big friend and advocate there, so that's something I think people remember when they go to the ballot box. Across the board, though, again, Northwest Arkansas, it's a growing metropolis area. It's going to be harder for either party to really sort of have a stranglehold of that. But I don't necessarily buy the fact that just because it's one of the fastest growing places in America that it's going to just turn to blue. I think there is going to be that purple tinge over time, but I think there's a lot of people moving in that are maybe apolitical and just care more about the issues, putting food on the table, making sure their kids have good education. So I think all 4 are going to fare really, really well on election night. And again, I think it goes back to the record.
I was looking at what he's saying. I was looking at that the other day, and I remembered when just 12, maybe 14 years ago, the odds were exactly 180 degrees out from where we are now.
That's right.
So when I look at that, then I looked at the future and what's happening in Northwest Arkansas, I think is indicative of that next change back over. Maybe 4 or 6 years down the road, we'll start seeing the breakdown of the supermajority that they hold here in the state right now, and then we'll get it on an even kill, and then we'll start all over again to see who gets the majority.
I will say, I do think that there's going to be more of I think you're going to see a different sort of Republican candidate up there as well over time. I think you're going to see more of that moderate messaging to voters and things like that. I do think you're going to see a change. I just don't think it's going to be as nearly as quick as some think it's going to be.
Let's talk about another race that's not as easy to make a call at this point. We're talking about issue 2, which is going to be on everybody's ballot across the whole state. There's also issue number 1, which will deal with giving scholarships, making them available through the lottery for vo-tech students at places like Pulaski Tech. Seems to have universal appeal.
Southeast Arkansas.
And Southeast Arkansas. There we go. Full disclosure there. But issue 2 is the one that has a lot of people confused. It has a lot of people, they want to take a position, but I think since this one isn't partisan, I'd love your analysis of what you're seeing right now in this battle over whether or not Pope County should continue to have that 4th casino license there.
I mean, I've heard arguments on both sides. I think there's some good arguments. Obviously, this happened a long time ago. They're still trying to get it to the finish line, break ground on who's actually going to build that casino. I think, a lot of people struggle because this could happen to any county, right? I mean, basically you're having 74 counties decide the 75th's, sort of casino policy. And when this election first happened, you saw Polk County overwhelmingly vote against that. It's not something they wanted. I'll be very curious to see what happens this time around. If you see sort of a change there, it's been so long, they've been in the community, all of the different casinos that are trying to jockey there for position. Will that change or won't it? It's still really odd to me that the state is deciding what happens in Polk County on a statewide ballot.
I'll pick up on that exact thought. And as I've talked to people in various communities, they say the same thing. This was a local issue. It should have been settled in Polk County. Because if you think about it, we got the first 3 casinos by popular statewide vote. So that kind of puts the local people at a position of saying, hey, we need the state to help us here. But
yeah,
it seems like there's certainly sympathy out there, but then you also look at Pine Bluff and Saracen Casino and all the money that has arrived there, and people who are certainly interested in regrowing Pine Bluff, and then maybe people wondering why can't we bring that to the River Valley? It's a very interesting race, and I think there's also confusion too.
Lots of confusion.
It's like voting no means yes you want to get rid of it.
Maybe we'll get a chance to peep at the results, and we'll see Pine Bluff heavily probably saying no casino in Polk County.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah, in some of those counties with casinos, you'll see. It'll be an interesting race to look at. That'll be one that I look forward to kind of jumping into the numbers afterwards and seeing sort of what happened, because I think it's going to be one. I mean, obviously there's not that much statewide happening. That's going to be really interesting on election night. So.